She already has your heart. This Valentine's Day, give her one of ours.
Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us again. This is Food for Thought, and I'm Sunil Chandy. And this is a ministry out of Christ Episcopal Church, and we thank you for joining us today. I always love watching that beginning of Food for Thought. I mean, I really love the fact that our producer, Ben, gave us that wonderful beginning, and of course, that very last picture of Meg, along with all the wonderful guests, are just a joy and happy. It makes me feel good. And I want to welcome all you guys who are watching. If there's Natalie who's wished us happy or good afternoon. There's also Jan Hassel who says hello with a snowflake, and Dale Allen is just says hello with good afternoon. And I think I just saw Charlene Gear saying good afternoon too. So thank you for joining us. You guys are just wonderful, and of course, there are many other people who are watching on different platforms in this on this show. And this show is actually something that we at Christ Church never expected to do, but we had this thing called the COVID-19 virus that affected us, and so we are doing this show to keep us all connected. Steve, thank you. Good afternoon. I just love the fact that we're all connected to this. Steve, don't forget, I offered to buy some Girl Scout cookies from your daughter. So please, those peanut butter sandwiches, Girl Scout cookies are just something to die for me. So I'm gonna come back on that. But again, this is a show that is called to connect us and to keep us connected, especially during times of challenge and transitions as well. My kids are going back to school. My youngest went back to his school about 2 weeks ago, and then my two elder ones are going back to college. And so usually what we do is before we go, this is a tradition that has always been a part of my life. Whenever people leave or go on a trip or go somewhere else, there's a prayer that we usually say together before they leave. And in fact, not only a prayer, but it's actually the Psalm 121. And I would read it. And it is just a prayer of blessing almost. And so I'd like to read that for you. And I just wanted to, I think, talk about that a little bit before we introduce our guest today. Psalm 121, as all of you know, is a beautiful song. It is one that calls us to remember that in the midst of challenge, in the midst of transition, that there is an unchangeable God who loves us, a God that comes out to us to hope, to protect us, guide us, and lead us to safe pastures. And so here it goes like this. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. I love that psalm. It's a psalm that helps us to remember that in the midst of life, and life is always filled with the unexpected and unexpected challenges. Challenges that we as human beings know, challenges like the one we are facing as a global community, the COVID-19 challenge, but also other challenges that humans have throughout history experienced. You know, the loss of a loved one, the changing and transitions of life as we grow older, the loss of our innocence in some ways, the loss of even not only loved ones, but also maybe a loss of a job, or the loss of a situation that we longed for. And in the midst of it, there is this experience of emptiness that we might have. And then how do we cope? And so the psalmist reminds us that in those times that are times of transition, we ought to look, we have to look with eyes of faith towards a God who supports us and helps us. Now, the thing is, God might not take away our problems. God might not take away those things that hurt us. Sometimes the people that we lose, if we lose someone to death, we won't get them back in the same way that we hoped or we want to, right? They want them to be alive right in front of us, but that's not going to happen. But God, in those times, in those times, helps us to learn how to cope and to deal and to use the lessons learned and to still find joy even in the midst of this transition period. Or it might be when we're losing a job, right? And then do we have the courage to get back into the game? Do we have the courage to get back up and to look again? And even though we might have lost something, and do we have the fortitude to come back and say, let's try again? Well, if we know that there is a God that supports us and loves us, then we might find the courage to understand that even though one opportunity may be lost, there is always another opportunity yet coming down, an opportunity that might offer us something more, something better. When we have this faith in this undying God, there is this sense that we are going to be okay, no matter what happens in life. So in our household, when we send off the kids to college, there's a little bit of college or school, there's a little bit of fright. We can't control the environment around our kids any longer, especially when they have their cars and so forth. And so all we could do is just, rely on a God that has protected us, that has given us the ability to face our challenges. And we ask that God to protect our children and our loved ones. And then we remind them. I mean, part of the reason why I say this prayer with them is to remind them that this isn't just, that protection, that love, that confidence in God is not something that is only mediated through their father and mother, but rather it's a relationship which they themselves can access. And so usually when we do send them off, it's with tears and it's with longing, but it's also in prayer. And so everything will be okay. It's the same way with us is today when we face the challenges of our life. We know that our God is with us somehow. God will help us through this, and we learn what we can. And then what we learn helps us to deal with the challenge of the day. Today we have a special guest. We have our senior warden. He's just been elected as senior warden, Caswell Cooke. And today, Caswell and I will launch a series this week in which you are going to meet our elected officials, some of our elected officials, especially those on the executive team. You'll also meet Sarah Stockworth, our other Warden, and then you'll eventually meet again Natalie Cooke, and hopefully Dan Leonard will be on board as well, so that you will know who is your part of your leadership team. And so, Ben, I invite you to ask or to bring Caswell on. Hey, Caswell, how are you?
Hi, Father Sunil.
How are you doing?
I'm lovely. How about you?
I'm lovely too. I know you're juggling meetings. You just came from a meeting with, I think, our governor Dan McKee, and
Our soon to be, yeah,
soon to be governor. When
yeah.
will he be officially installed, or what do they call it? Do they call it installation or
Inaugurated?
Inaugurated, yes.
Looks like it's being put off now for another couple of weeks. So he thought it was gonna be like today, but
Wow.
Because of the Senate taking up other stuff in the Senate down in Washington, it's kind of pushing confirmations off a couple of weeks. But I would say he'll be the governor, like at least by February 25th or so.
Yeah, we should remember to put him on our prayers of the people. The
Yes.
governor-elect right now, I guess, and then
I think the title is governor designate because he's moving from a lieutenant to a governor. So I think I've heard the term governor designate.
okay. All right, great. Then let's do that. We should make sure to do that for this Sunday onwards.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just touch base with you. I mean, you've always been active in our church, and you've been here for forever, right? And so I think it might be good to kind of reintroduce you to some of those folks who might not know you, which I don't know as many, but to also talk about where you as senior warden see us moving towards, and have this wonderful conversation as we're dealing with this challenging time too.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting time to be in any kind of leadership role, whether it's the town, the state, the church, whatever, because it's people always say things are unprecedented, but this isn't unprecedented because there was a flu back in 1918, but it's certainly unprecedented in our lifetime. No offense to anyone who's over 100 right now. They might have experienced the first pandemic
Yeah.
in our country. But yeah, so I mean, I've just been a part of Christ Church since I was a little kid. My dad sang in the choir back in the 50s. And so he and my grandmother had gone there. And then my mother found the place also on her own when Father Jocelyn was the rector back in the 70s. And then I just, got involved at age 8, started singing in the choir, and started being an acolyte. And, I think in my 20s, I kind of fell away a little bit for a few years. And then, I don't know, since I was probably 30 or so, or late 20s, I've been there ever since. So yeah, 40 something years.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's wonderful to have, and you love the church. I mean, I remember actually you were on my search committee.
Yes.
And we were talking about technology and all sorts of stuff, and I felt that it was important to get into that, and that's what the Episcopal Church needed to do. And then immediately after the interview, I remember you were the first person to text me, which was really wonderful. I was just overjoyed. And
Well, I wanted to reach out. I did the same thing with Bishop Nisley. He always will remember me as the first person to friend him on Facebook after he was first announced that he would be incoming.
yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. And so you're kind of like, even that very action signified to me that you loved this church, and you wanted it to be engaging in ministry in the present, in the now, which included technology.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was so passionate about it that I always bring it up. I wrote the book. but yeah, no, it's definitely a passion of mine, and trying to help the church in an age of non-churchgoers. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the Episcopal Church was thriving in a period of time when importance was placed on, the two-parent, God-fearing, church-going family sort of days, and that's gone. And so now where does an institution, a large institution that is not so flexible because it's an institution with lots of opinions, how does it navigate the waters in the 21st century? And I would say, not very well. And that's what we are. We're kind of like guinea pigs, I think, in Westerly, because I think we are doing well. So I think we're something for other churches to take a peek at, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think especially, I mean, it's wonderful because you were not only were on the vestry for this my first couple of years, but then you moved over to be junior warden, and then we've had this wonderful conversation relationship and the executive team, and you've always pushed us to kind of engage, and one of the examples of that pushing is like this communication budget that we just approved in our church. I mean, part of it is over the years, initially it was like $10,000 initially, right? And that was a big amount at the very beginning. But that represented an investment because we used that $10,000 for internet. We used that to build up our infrastructure. And now when we had COVID, we were kind of really poised to do even more and faster. And so when we leaned into it, all of a sudden now we've got services online, services that are being televised or not televised, but put through the internet all over the world, and people are connecting to us and the vision that we have.
I would say even if you look at that budget, remember when you came here, it was actually about $2,000.
That's right.
It was a huge feat for us to get to 10. Remember, it took us a couple of years. And then this year we went to 26. And I asked for 32. And then when they said you can have 26, I said, I better be quiet now. Because people are responding to like this program. We already had Symbol of Love be our first sponsor for Food for Thought. And they sponsored $500 for a couple of months or a month or whatever. And so if we can get other people that are watching this program from wherever they are around the world, literally, and if you wanted to sponsor an online program like Food for Thought, that helps to defray the budget. Because we took a little leap of faith. We said, well, we're going to keep the programming the same this year, but we don't quite have enough money to do it. So we're going to count on some advertisers on the non-religious shows. We're not going to say, Sunday morning Eucharist is brought to you by Tide. We're not going to go there. We're respectful. But I mean, Food for Thought or any other kind of event that we did. And then, to prove that the whole thing was worth it financially, you take a look at how the folks who did the bazaar. I mean, here you had an event that brought in just as much money as the previous year, and it was all done 100% online. So there's a value beyond just, broadcasting a service.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's a new way of doing ministry. And it's uncomfortable because you're exactly what you were saying. It's because we're an institution, and it's hard to move institutions to think differently and be as nimble as needed. I was reading an article this morning in the Wall Street Journal about this pandemic that we have, this COVID-19 pandemic. Well, they're no longer using the term pandemic. A pandemic is a virus that it has a beginning and then an end point. You could you get the vaccine and it's going to be done with, right?
This is an endemic or something, right?
Right. It's an endemic. It's something that's going to be a part of our life, like smallpox or measles or rubella. We're always going to have to deal with this, and we're going to have to deal with how to connect to people in the midst of this. So, I mean, part of what we learned is like Zoom is important for us. Online ministry is going to be important for us. And that's only going to continue for a while. They say that, this article suggested that we won't see the end of this maybe until 2035 or something, Like, what?
I'm gonna throw in the towel before then if we're still wearing masks in 15 years.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. But I think part of it is, of course, they're looking at how the vaccines are coming out, who's going to get it. All over the world has to get it because Then you don't have. Then you could get the herd immunity that we want. But if you don't get that all over the world, then you'll get various strains of this virus coming out. And so the faster we could get everyone vaccinated, the better we will be. But until then, and it takes a lot, you know?
Mm. Yeah, well, I certainly think, I hope, by this fall, we're going to be able to be somewhat normal. I mean, hopefully we don't have to still have all these different, spots in the pews and like put fake people in them or anything. I hope it doesn't stay that way like the Super Bowl last night. I mean, it was interesting. It was kind of funny, but it is sad in a way. But I'm looking forward to the day we can pivot and say, look, it's time to come back and we can celebrate. And you think of all the things that are put off. We're going to have a bottleneck in the church of even memorial services, for instance. Yeah. I mean, think of how many people have passed away this past year, and they said, well, when this is over, we're going to do something. Well, that's going to be a lot of, around this whole world. That's going to be, that's going to be a tax on clergy, because all of a sudden when the thing ends, everyone who had, you may have already obviously buried the person, but they never got to have the public expression of their life. And that's going to be like a full-time job for several months, just doing that part. And then the deferred things like baptisms and confirmations and first communions. I mean, it's going to all bottleneck at once, which will be a great thing, I guess, but we got to prepare for that.
Yeah, but I think it's a great thing. I'm looking forward to that, actually. I can't wait. I can't wait.
You have we'll have like a mass baptism where they all have to take a number like the deli counter. Just use that aspergillium and just throw it out there.
That's right.
I'll baptize you all. There you go.
And you need two.
A couple. But we're adapting. I did want to plug the fact that we're going to do our annual pancake supper differently, and I wanted to encourage people to go to the Christ Church website, christchurchwesterly.org, and click on events. And under events, you can register for the pancake supper, which we always have done. They call it Fat Tuesday. They call it Mardi Gras. They call it Shrove Tuesday in our tradition. And we're going to do it to go, much like the what do we do to go? The Thanksgiving dinner that we did. And so we'll be able to package your pancakes, and you can pull into the parking lot, and we'll give them to you in your car in a bag. And so just pre-order so we know how many pancakes to make. And it all goes to support the Acolyte Guild, the Seth and Mary Tolman Acolyte Fund.
Yeah. And by the way, I think, I just want to make say again how grateful I am for your work, along with Christine Cooke, your wife, who is principal in terms of helping us with Thanksgiving dinner. That was amazing. Oh my God, it was just a great blessing to us. And and she organized that event along with you, and then all the people who helped out. There, I am still getting cards from people who tell me how much that they, this is not a normal time, but the fact that we were able to do that helped people to feel the security of God, almost the security of their community, the security of love, And so it's beautiful. It was beautiful. And so Caswell, one of the great gifts that you do is you always push us to kind of continue to do the work that we're called to do. And that's one of the reasons why you'll be an excellent senior warden. Coming back to this pancake supper, it's a tradition. It's a tradition that we've had at Christ Church for many, many years, and this year we're not going to succumb to the COVID to say that we can't live out our traditions. We're going to try and do it. It's going to be different, but it's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. No, we got to do it, and then we have to, when we get back to real life, this is real life, but when we get back to normal, it's going to be even more of a challenge and a push to get people out of the habit of saying, well, I can just sit in bed and watch the service, to actually, and actually come to the service. And so it's going to be a transition. If this is the year that we can hopefully get everyone or most people vaccinated, and we're able to, have something resembling normal in the fall, that's going to be a challenge. And so I just want to set challenges. I always find that when you set a goal, I mean, think about like these fundraisers that were had, whether it's the bazaar, whatever. If you see a number, people will rise to the number. So I think it's important. And when I visited churches when I was writing my book, I remember this one place in Texas. It was a cathedral in Houston, and they put their parish statistics on their weekly bulletin. It says it said like such and such cathedrals right in a downtown area, and it said 155 baptisms in 2016, 42 confirmations, membership of 562 people. The choir at the, I don't know, they had like these goals, and I think when you see numbers, a lot of people are numbers people. It's like making your budget, it's just, you got to see numbers sometimes to understand. And so I've always been like a charts and graphs kind of guy, but it helps you. And people, when they see a decline and you say, look, they love seeing the uptick when you switch it.
Yeah.
And we've done that at Christ Church. We had the steady decline like the national church, and then we had a flattening, and then we've had this rise, and that's nice to see. Very nice to see. So I'm a big goals person.
I think that's a great idea. And actually, I like that idea. Why don't we think about doing that? Maybe we'll flesh it out.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are just things that you learn. And then Pam McDonald sent an article to us last night, which I started reading, where somebody went and visited 16 churches around the country, San Francisco, Tennessee, Colorado, Maine. Yeah. And they basically wrote like a few paragraphs about what they went to each of the services. So if they had an 8 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, and a 5 o'clock compline, or 7 p.m. morning, evening prayer, and they wrote and they talk about how the children, how many were here for this, what their average attendance is, do they use incense, and what version of the prayer book are they using, this and that. And it was very interesting to read, what works in what different geographical places. So it's nice to see what these other folks are doing. And then, and then I sat there and there was one thing I heard and I'm like, oh, well, that would be a good idea. And that's what I think the point of the article is to sort of spark some ideas in the other 7,000 churches around the country.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's beautiful. And, and I'm glad about that article that Pam McDonald suggested too. Yeah. So like, we've got about a minute left. Is there any other, like, just anything any passing wisdom as you begin this journey as our senior warden?
No, because you got to have the journey before you can have the wisdom. So on week 1 of senior wardening, I don't have any wisdom yet, but I'm sure at the end of 3 years, I'll have some wisdom.
You do have wisdom already, Caswell. You're a very wise man and a good heart. You have a good heart.
You do too.
Yeah. You love our community, and that's why you're so important to it. All right. God bless you, and thank you for all that you do. And God bless you.
See you next time.
See you next time. Folks, again, an example of great leadership. Caswell Cooke, our junior warden who became senior warden this year, and I'm looking forward to working with him and Sarah Starkweather, who you'll be meeting tomorrow as well. Sarah is our junior warden, and she's a wonderfully gifted lady and has a great experience in the Episcopal Church as well. Now is our time to end our time together, and so as is our tradition, we're going to say our prayer. This is a prayer that was created for this COVID crisis that we're all engaged in. It's one that is, this is a prayer that is adapted from one written by Bishop Thomas Brown of Maine. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, and our caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve God. Spread the light of Christ to the world around you. The world needs it right now.
Make this Valentine's Day as special for them as they are to you.